All right, Shalom. As always, all praises, honor, and glory goes to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakaha Kodash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the elect scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Lord willing, this one will be edifying to the elect. And the first precept I have here is 2nd Edras, chapter 6, verse 9, and it reads, "For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth." And Esau is the wicked that the Lord, Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, has placed in power, has put in rulership over the earth. And Esau, Edom, goes back to the so-called white people today go back to Esau, Edom. They are Edomites. They are Esau, right? So the pink-skinned individuals that you see walking around, showing their faces on the TV, they are the Edomites, so-called white people. They are the wicked. And Jacob is you so-called Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, whatever you want to call yourself, Caribbean, Jamaican, Dutch, German. Why I say Dutch, German? Because we're scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, right? So it's not a skin color thing. You're going to have Israelites that look Asian. You're going to have Israelites that even look like Esau as well. But it all goes back to who your forefathers are, right? So skin color does not determine what your lineage is, okay? Your seed line does. So if you go back to Israel, or if your spirit bears witness, because there's no new spirit under the sun. You're either a heathen, either have a heathen spirit, or you have an Israelite spirit, right? So if you have an Israelite spirit, no matter what you look like, you are an Israelite. But the beautiful thing about this chapter here, this is a prophecy of what is to come. And we're at that very end, because Esau is the end. His end is our beginning. His end is our salvation, right? Which we get salvation from Yahweh Hashem Yahushai and being beamed up in the chariots, the so-called UFOs. However, Esau's end is a beautiful thing for us, because Esau's end is a switch over from a evil rulership to a righteous rulership, okay? Because when you take a look, on TV, even just across the board, everywhere where Edomites dwell, they are living in their heaven, right? Even though they still suffer because of their wicked nation, they're just a wicked in general. So with that being said, even though they're in rulership, their people still suffer too. However, for the most part, they enjoy a heavenly life, with their wickedness, right? They live comfortably. They don't have to worry about their kids going out and playing in the neighborhood, and they can leave their doors open because it's an Edomite rule, right? Everything is governed by faces that look like them, right? So they're at the advantage. However, Esau, there's many signs that show that Esau knows that he's at the end, okay? And now let me just pull that up here. Revelation chapter 12, verse 12, and it says, "Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time." So the Edomites, the ones in the ones in, the elites, and the ones in the know, the ones that are juiced in, because not all Edomites know what the fuck is going on. The common everyday Edomite does not know that their end is near, for the most part. They do not understand that their time is short. However, their leaders, they know. Okay, so that's why you see them coming down with ICE and different type of sanctions on immigrants, right? To keep a hold of, their rulership and their nation, because they're really scared, because they're not the majority, they're the minority. They're actually the minority. So them knowing that they're the minority, they're acting with haste, You know, their dollar is dwindling as well. You know, so there's wars. You know, there's trade wars. You know, wars with the oil, with Iran, all of that shit. That's all to gain power. You know, that's all to reload. You know, attempt to reload and power up back their rulership. You know, and maintain the dominance that they once had. But their power is getting weaker and weaker. So that's why when you see things like ICE, you know, different type of sanctions on immigrants, right, and restrictions, and it's getting stricter under Nero's rule, which we believe Nero is Trump. Trump is Nero, right? So Donald Trump is being used. You know, he's a puppet that's being used to do certain things. So that's a sign that we're at our end, and that's a beautiful thing to see. You know, they're gonna make it that much harder to move around. You know, whether it is in their in America, in Europe, whether it is in their banking system, you know, their transport system, bus. If you're already in the States, you know, certain things are going to get tighter and tighter. They're going to require more identification, verification to show that you're legally, you know, allowed to be in their country, right? And this is a power move because he knows that he has a short time. And also it leads to the mark of the beast. They have to implement these type of things, right? But that's also a sign that they're at their end, because what? The mark of the beast is a end time prophecy. So is this that I'm reading here in Revelation chapter 12, because he knows that his time is short. Okay, the elites know that their time is short, right? The everyday Joe and Karen, they do not know. They think their kingdom is going to go on forever, because even though the elites, you know, their leaders, you know, their people that are in charge know that they have a short time, they still have a spirit that the Lord has put on them to believe that they're going to fix this and turn everything around, because the spiritual demon Satan is their God. However, their God works for our power, which is the one and only true, you know, God, you know, Heavenly Father, Most High, Yahweh, you know, and we call upon Yahweh through His Son, our Savior, Yahushai. So we say Yahweh in the name of Yahushai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus, which is also a God, but the one and only true God, you know, as the world calls God, his true name is Yahweh, right? And he orchestrates everything that happens, okay? And today he has on earth a elect, right? He has a chosen remnant of people from his nation, and his chosen nation is the nation of Israel, Yashar Allah. He, Prince of Power, Prince of the Power, however you want to say it. We are sons of the Most High, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahushai. And you so-called black women, Hispanic women, you know, Latinas, you know, Caribbean women, you know, women that look like the heathen as well, that their spirit bears witness and their lineage goes back to Jacob. You are daughters of Zion as well, you know, daughters of Israel as well. Okay, so let me get a few precepts here to close out, because we're definitely at the end, you know, just seeing certain things, you know, in person. You know, you see it on the news, you hear it, it's the same thing, but like seeing it and understanding the times, it's much different, man. Like, this place is going, man. Like, their rulership is the heaven that they live is really not so much heaven anymore, right? It's just getting weaker and weaker. It just looks very bland, and which they're a very bland nation, but there is something spiritual that's always happening, right? And you can just feel it in the air. You can see it, you know. These Edomites are not happy, okay? And that's also a sign of their end, you know, because they have got away with so much murder, right? And what's justice? The Lord does not suffer injustice, right? The Lord is going to deliver what they have done, what they have done in the past, right back to them, right? Let me just try to find this precept here. Okay, I can get Job as well. Job chapter 20, verse 3. And it reads, I have heard the check of my I started 5. So it says, all right, so let me start at 4. Knowing thou not this of old, since man was placed upon earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment. Okay, and this is beautiful to hear, because the people are mourning, even the wicked themselves, and that's just crazy. That's a crazy thing. So imagine the heathen, imagine the Israelites that are under the curses, because we have this devil placed over us as a punishment, and also we have the curses on us as well. That's why we have to lean on the Lord daily. Okay, so this is the word triumphing. It's the Hebrew word
Strong's H 7445. Okay. Renana.
And
Renana.
It goes into joy. Triumphing, joyful voice. Happiness, heaven. That's what it sounds like to me. Shouting for joy. You're rejoicing, you're celebrating. The celebration, right? And let's go into joy, the word joy, real quick. Because the Lord is going to put a stop to their joy. That's what the precept said. Okay, so it says a feeling of great happiness and pleasure. Okay, that's coming to an end. That's going to be passed over to Jacob, because Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. The difference is our happiness and joy and pleasure comes from righteousness. All right, and let's see what Merriam-Webster has righteousness as the definition here. Okay, this is pretty, nothing is really simple in the spirit, but this is pretty simple stuff, things to look forward to, and these meditating on these things and actually believing that, we are the righteous, that we are going to be put in rule, we are going to take over and rule in righteousness. Believing and knowing that is enough. All right, so if you have men, the Lord take the spirit off of them, the Lord, ultimately they didn't truly believe, the Lord didn't have that believing spirit on them, well, as a punishment, however it may be, the Most High is the one that knows all the answers we are relating to men that, get a taste of this truth and then leave. But speaking hopefully and as a believer, I strongly believe, and know that, we will rule in righteousness. And that's not something that, for me, is movable. Lord willing, the Lord doesn't take that spirit from me. Okay? So it says, acting in accord with divine or moral law. Right? So the law of Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai, which people like to say the law of Moses, which is the law of Yahweh, in the name of his son Yahushai. Right? It says acting in accord, so being one. You know how the Christians like to say, oh, Jesus and God is one, that means they're the same. No, they're in one accord. All right? Free from guilt or sin, right? Because we won't be able to sin. We won't be able to sin because we will have immortal bodies, superhuman bodies, angelic bodies on the earth, if I can say it like that. Trying to find the best way to describe it, extraterrestrial. Put it this way, we'll be like, the Superman and the metahumans, that you see on TV, times 144. Okay? Because we will be in the new covenant. And what's more powerful than that? Right? That's a promise that we will never sin again. We'll never have to teach our brothers, this is wrong, this is right. No, it will be within us. We will be perfect. However, the heathen will sin. The heathen will still go off, right? That's why we will be set over them. Okay? So let me go back here. It says joyful. So joyful, their joyfulness, their happiness is going to be taken away from them. Thus saith Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Their triumphing is short. Because the power of the earth, I think it's in Sirach, the power of the earth is in the hand of Yahweh. And in his timing, he sets over it the profitable ones, or one that is profitable. And that one that is profitable that's coming up is the nation of Israel. All right. And I'll just get one of my favorite precepts here to close. In Daniel, this is Daniel chapter 7, verse 19 or 18, I believe. Well, this is Daniel chapter 7, verse 18. And it says, "But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom." So we're going to take it. We're going to take that shit. All right? That's what the Lord said. We're not going to ask. We're going to take it. And we're going to destroy you Edomites in the process as well. You're going to have Edomites that are going to have the spirit to fight. We're going to just crush their heads in. Right? And now we're going to take the kingdom. We're going to take it away from Esau. Okay? And it says, "But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever." So forever, for eternity. All right? And we're going to rule in righteousness. So let me read this in the NLT before I go. "But in the end, the holy people," which the holy people are the saints, the remnant, the 144,000 men and 1/3 men, women, and children, will be the beneficiaries, right? And it says, "But in the end, the holy people of the Most High will be giving the kingdom," right? Because ultimately the Lord is giving it to us. Even though we're going to take it and we're going to do the action, the Lord is the one that is putting the Spirit on us. The Lord is the one that gave it to us. So this is actually correct as well. This is actually what it is. The holy people of the Most High will be given the kingdom, and they will rule forever and ever. All right. And let me just go into this word here, forever, because we have no need to worry. Things are going to get harder, but we have Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai to lean on, and the Lord will test your faith, your patience by putting you in certain situations while living under this fucking ruler, this evil devil, so-called white people, right? Living amongst them and living with their sanctions and their rules and their coons that are set over you, because even in the islands, man, the Caribbean, like having the prime ministers and these different leaders over you, it's like the same shit, because you're being oppressed by them, because they're under Esau's thumb. They're doing what Esau tells them to do. So it's the same shit, right? So the word forever here goes into, let me see what it says here. Okay, let's go back and let me get it in the KJ. It should be the same. All right, Alam, let me see here. And ever, let me get this one. perpetuity. All right. The future or past indefinitely, forever, often, lasting. Um, okay, let me get that word in the Merriam-Webster, and then I'll go eternity. Right, cool. Right, so eternity, right? Let me just pull this word up to see if there's anything edifying here. All right. It says the quality of state of being, the perpetual, the condition of an estate limited so that it will not take effect and vest within the period of a fixed law. Forever, it says annuity payable forever. It says eternity, sense two. Okay, so eternity, continuing forever, everlasting, right? As our power is everlasting. You know, Yahweh is called the Ancient of Days. So he will bestow upon us immortality, right? True immortality. Okay? So fuck these devils. You know, their time is at the end. You know, their end is our beginning, and we're at the end. We're literally at the part of the story where the few major prophecies are coming to an end. You know, it's already shaping up. The building blocks, you know, is already stacking up, you know, around the foundation, you know, of that prophecy. You know, it's almost complete, right? Esau's coffin is almost, you know, done, covered, right? It's just a few more things to go. You know, the MOTB, we know nothing is going to happen until the MOTB is made mandatory, and then there will be a World War III, a third war. Okay? So with that, as always, all praise, honor, and glory goes to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rukahak Wadash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who rule well, and peace and salutations to you sincere elect members. Shalom.